Yo guys, what is up? It's Teach here, coming at you again with another video over on Ark Survival Ascended. And in this video, I'm going to show you everything you need to know about this beautiful creature behind me that just released with the extinction update, and that is the gacha. And the funny thing is all of the people that are really good at this game, the pros, the people that play hundreds of hours, have an in-depth knowledge of what the gacha does, how to tame it, what it does, and like everything you could possibly know about it. I'm going to walk down and break down everything you need to know because it's super important to understand these because they are, if not the most valuable, one of the most valuable creatures in the entire game. So this is the gacha. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, it is a tame that is very different from other tames because unlike other tames, it's literally named after the ability to get a gacha game in real life. It has crystals that grow on its back, and when this thing eats, it will throw crystals off of its back. Now, the eating kind of depends on a few different factors, and I'm just going to toss down some structures so you can see what I'm talking about here. So basically, you can see that he is going to automatically pick up anything that you put directly in front of him, and that will go into his inventory or her inventory, depending on a few different factors and, carry weight, things like that, and overall black box, things like that. But so what it's going to do is this gacha is going to pick up whatever you put in front of it. And once it's done picking all of that stuff up, it's going to eat what it's in its inventory. That means it's permanently gone. So anything you put in its inventory, it's gone. It will not pick up eggs and a few other basic things. But for the most part, any structure, device, tool, and snow owl pellet will get picked up. So what it'll do is it'll eat a stack is what it's called of this. Now, a stack of metal quarter triangle ceilings is going to be 20. Or 20 of the metal roof ramps, or 20 of these. So stacks are different depending on what it is, and it'll pick up just about everything. Now, it takes usually a few minutes for the gacha to begin eating, but then it'll begin this little cool pose where it's got like this, I don't know if you want to call it like bright lights on its back, and you can see the crystals grow, and then it'll drop a crystal off of its back. Now, the gacha crystals, there are two different types. There is the one that I just picked up, and that is the type that contains a consumable. And then there are special gacha crystals that will have anything from primitive value to mastercraft, unless they have ascendant still. And you can pop these. By pop these, I mean hit E on them, and it'll give you a certain number of resources. So the normal crystals, just the primitive gacha crystals, are going to give you a set number of resources. The special gacha crystals, they will have a certain glow to them depending on what level they are. So like Ramshackle will be green, Journeyman will be certain colors, and then you can see here's another one right here. So let's go ahead and pop it. So let's see. So this one I got silk, that's corrupted wood. Now, how do you know what the gacha is going to have from the crystal on its back? If you hold E on the gacha and go to his radial menu, you will see production tab. Now that production is what this gacha is capable of producing. Now you can stick it to one individual item and that's all this gacha will produce, or you can leave it on any and it'll randomly produce these in any combination. And so when you pop the actual crystals, you'll just get a randomized selection of things. Now most people are looking for specific items because gachas can literally produce anything in the game. Now that ranges from organic polymer to element dust to obsidian, metal, you name it, these guys can produce it. Now, the cool thing about them is if it's a raw resource, they'll make it. Now, people use these and have giant gacha walls and towers because obviously you can see how valuable this would be in order to make super bases, mega bases, and whatever you want to call, right? So that is the production tab. Now, some gachas have incredible value. Obviously, you heard me mention element dust a few seconds ago. Element dust gachas are some of the most valuable gachas in the game because each time you open a crystal, you passively generate element dust. Instead of having to go out, which can be such a pain in the butt, your gachas will literally automatically produce it for you. And that gives you the ability to just produce element without having to do a boss fight, without having to do literally anything at all. Now, that is obviously incredibly useful, so you definitely want to capitalize on that ability because, having free things is everyone's favorite thing. Ooh, piece of candy, right? Now, you can go ahead and pop these crystals anytime you get them, or you can store them because if you store the crystals, they have a forever storage as long as they're not on the ground, and you can store them and pop them at a later date whenever you need those resources. So, gachas are incredibly valuable for that ability. So all of that being said, how do you tame a gacha? Now I'm going to go ahead and find one. Let's clear this Dino Finder, click, and then let's go ahead and find one. Let's go ahead and go for, let's just go to this baby gacha, why not? And it is over here. Okay. So sometimes they'll get stuck in walls, and it looks like that's what happened to this one, and that sucks. But it is what it is, I guess. You can see how they get stuck in the walls. Not super fun, pain in the butt, and yeah, that's why people have a hard time finding them. And let's go ahead and GCM. So I have a GCM ability here. They do not fight things naturally in the wild. However, if their baby is being attacked, you can see that that's a new addition. They will fight back and kind of harvest those things. Now, gachas, right? So you can follow it around. You can do whatever you want. There are two different ways to get them. One, kill the parent and then claim the baby. That's one way to get it. But in order to tame the parent, what you can do is basically drop resources or drop structures in front of them. Now, you can see that as soon as I dropped it, this guy ate all of those resources. And when he eats those resources, you will be able to tame him. Now, the best resource to tame gachas is going to be structures. Specifically, tech structures is what will give you a 100% imprint bonus. But you can just drop resources like stacks of stone, stacks of wood, stacks of whatever, in order to feed the gacha, and it will automatically continue to pick things up until it is fed. But tech structures is the number one thing, so you want to try and drop those if you can. Now, so that's how you tame them. Again, what we're going to do the first time we tame it, we're going to look at the production and see what it's capable of producing. We can see this guy has blue crystallized sap, sulfur, clay, sand, raw salt, and fiber. Basically, it's a scorched earth gacha. Now this one over here, we can look at the production as soon as it's born, and you can see metal, huge, oil, huge, silk, big, salt, fiber, and stone. Now, those are what these two gachas produce. Now, that is how you tame it. That's everything you need to know about taming it. It's not super difficult. You throw things in front of them, they pick it up and eat it. In order to actually get the best possible chance of getting what you want and higher taming effectiveness, you drop structures, specifically tech ones. And for the lowest chance, but the cheapest, you can drop stacks of stone, wood, whatever you want in front of it, and it'll eat it all. They're not picky. They eat everything. So that is how you tame them. Let's go ahead and go back to our regular gacha over here and follow it on the map. Clear the dino finder and go back to this guy over here. So this is another gacha that I tamed earlier. And just so you can see what its production is, there is sap, oil, silk, flint, stone, and corrupted wood. Now, in order to ride a gacha, they have a funky saddle because they used to be really strong, so now they aren't. But basically with this saddle, the gacha will allow you to sit in its little pouch up front. Kind of cute, but nothing super special about it. Now, we've talked about, I know it's a lot, we've talked about how to tame, what they produce, how they produce it. The next thing that you need to know is bonuses and how to make your gachas happy. So in order to tell if your gacha is happy or not, if you stand underneath it and it looks at you, it is happy. If it does not look at you, it is not happy. Or if it curls its ears and looks away, it's not a happy gacha. So this one is just fine because it's not doing anything. So that's just fine. But in order to increase the percent or more crystals, if you want to think of it this way, there are three things you can do. One, if you have a opposite gender gacha next to one gacha, so if you have a male and female breeding pair, it increases the percent by 50%. So it basically doubles how quickly they produce crystals. So that's obviously a good thing. Now you can double it again by having snow owl pellets in their inventory. Snow owl pellets, literally, you can see sought after for it's got the nitrogen, high concentration of plant nutrients, blah, 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 replacement for fertilizer. So this is the gacha, and if you toss those two things, you're basically going to get way more crystals over time. So those are the two ways to increase its ability to produce crystals. Now, the next thing you need to be aware of, if there is a same gender gacha within 9 foundations, they just updated it, so it's 9 foundations up, around in a big circle, basically, of your gacha, it will not produce anything. It'll say that it's sad, and it'll kind of just sit in a corner unhappy-like. Now, you want to prevent that because we like free loot, right? So in order to keep your gachas happy, keep your breeding pairs 9 away, and then you can put some ramps behind them, and their crystals will actually fall down a ramp based on gravity. So that is how you feed your gacha, and that is how you keep your gacha alive. And it's it's not difficult once you understand the whole process. Now, the next thing you need to understand, when it comes to gachas, crafting skill is king. Now, the maximum crafting skill that a gacha can have in order to make more resources is 140% crafting skill. So no matter how high you go above that crafting skill, the gacha is going to continue to produce the same amount per crystal. So what's that mean? Remember I was opening crystals earlier and I would click and I would get this much resources, right? If my gacha has 140% crafting skill, it'll give me the maximum amount of resources and the maximum best loot possible. Anything beneath that, it's going to give me slightly less for each rank underneath that. So we want to make sure that we have the highest crafting skill we can get on our gachas. It also has a direct link to their actual crystals when they produce Ramshackle, Apprentice, Mastercraft, all those crystals. The higher the crafting skill, the higher probability you have to get better overall crystals from those. So all of that being said, gachas are incredibly difficult to understand, but once you understand those basics, you can kind of play with the rest of it. Things that you should feed your gachas, because obviously you're probably thinking, it's not cheap to feed these things. No, it's not. Early game, what I would really encourage you to do is to feed your gachas basic things like stone, wood, thatch, flint. Just throw as many stacks as you can in front of your gacha. He'll pick it all up, eat it, and then produce you crystals. However, it produces much faster the more pieces of ingredients are to make something. Now, what does that mean? Basically mean, remember when I said structures are the best thing that you can use, specifically text structures? Because text structures take 3 different resources. It takes the element, it takes metal, and it takes crystal, I think, for a lot of them. The more resources it uses to make something, the quicker a gacha is going to produce you resources. So there is a little cheat trick that a lot of people use, and that is called plant species Y. Now, plant species Y is considered a multiple resource thing. So you can feed your gacha a large number of plant species Y, and it'll produce a stupid amount of resources. But, some people, that's really only for unofficial servers. If you're playing on official servers, people have a tendency to make maps or cheap things like that, or signs or billboards, and then they put a bunch of those inside the gacha, and it'll quickly chew through them all and produce a ton of crystals for you. You can build massive gacha towers. You can just have one pair of gacha. You can have a single gacha. You can have as many gacha as you like. But I promise all of the big tribes have like 30 gachas and mega towers, and they're producing resources just by doing that. So anyways, that is the gacha explained. Hopefully this video helps you out in understanding why these things are the most valuable creatures in the game, and definitely go get yourself a hold of some because they are super useful. All right. Hope this video helps. Teach.